Hi everybody, this lesson focuses on the concept of data column and alias in the data stream processing mechanism, as well as demonstrating the usage of various functions and clause keywords. Data columns are the values generated during or at the end of the execution of a UQL. Given an alias, a data column can be called by subsequent statement. Data column and alias are often mixed in expressions. Based on the data structure of value in each row, a data column can be any of the 6 types. Node, edge, and path come from the query result of a chain statement. Attribute, array, and table are usually acquired by executing functions, while calling the property or schema of node or edge also generates attribute. To call the property or schema of a column of nodes, simply combine the alias of column with the property name using dot, or with the symbol @ using dot. When calling node columns in the return clause, list the properties to be returned in a pair of curly braces behind the alias. System properties are returned by default. Same call format also apply to column of edges. When calling a path column in the return clause, property list in the first curly brace are node properties to return, while those in the second curly brace belong to edges. If only one pair of curly braces are specified, it means the properties of nodes and edges. Calling a column of array to invoke either the whole array in each row or an element of each array, or some sub-array of each array. Now let's try out with Ultipa Manager. A chain statement not calling any external alias will generate data columns that form a new data stream. This find command generates a column of nodes, then derives the ID out of each node by calling the node alias. It also abstracts year out of the birthday of each node using a time function. All these 3 columns come from the query result of findNodes command. They have the same number of rows, and the values in the same row are correlated. We call the columns from the same source homologous columns. They always keep their corresponding relationships within a row. Many operations in the UQL delete rows from the stream. Clause limit2 will keep the first 2 rows in the stream and discard the rest of rows. With limit being applied, the column of nodes now has only 2 rows. The column of IDs are processed in the same way. Clause skip forward will discard the first 4 rows in the stream and keep the rest of rows. Now, both the columns of nodes and IDs have only 6 rows left, with the first 4 rows been deleted. Clause where only keeps the rows that meet the condition, which should be these 5 rows. Function distinct will delete rows whose value in the specified column is duplicated. And by the way, a function needs to be composed in a clause. When distinct function is in the with clause, all the rows in the stream are deduplicated based on the specified column. But when distinct is in the return clause, only the specified column is deduplicated. The rest of columns in the stream remain the same. Aggregate functions, as the name implies, will aggregate multiple rows in the stream into a summary row. For example, count the number of rows in the current data stream. It will generate a new data column, while keeping a random row in the data stream. Aggregate functions are sometimes composed right following a group by clause to realize aggregation within each group. For example, to divide the rows in the data stream by the level of nodes, and the number of rows is counted for each group. To better illustrate the correlation of rows, we use the table function to put some of the columns together. Other operations provided by UQL not really reduce the rows in the data stream, like clause keyword order by, which only sorts the rows by the value of the specified column. Clause keywords union all and union both can splice data columns from two returns. Like in this example of union all, the first uncollected clause releases number 1, 2, 3 from their array into 3 different rows, and this column is given an alias number, and is connected with the column 2, 3, 4, 5 that have the same alias and same data type from the second return. And same for this column AC and the column DCB. The UQL finally generates 2 columns. Clause union all will not deduplicate the ultimate columns, while clause union will do so.